I'm David Martin Davies, and coming up on The Source, Texans are being asked to decide 17 amendments to the state's constitution. Prop 16 is asking to clarify that non-citizens should be banned from voting. Though non-citizen voting is already barred by state and federal law, this amendment would add it explicitly to the state's constitution. So then why is this proposition necessary? And if passed, could it be used to make voting more difficult even if you are a citizen? And later on The Source, Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones joins us. Governor Abbott wants San Antonio to remove a rainbow crosswalk. Saws is planning to move a downtown water chiller building. And the county vote for Prop A and B is just days away. We'll get reaction. This is a community conversation. We want to hear from you. Call in at 833-877-8255. That's what's coming up on The Source. But first, this news.
Support for the Source podcast comes from UT Health San Antonio, South Texas' largest academic research institution, where what is discovered in its labs translates into life-changing patient care. More at uthealthsa.org.
Hello, I'm Morgan Handley, Vice President of Programs with Corazon Ministries. Our vision is a community where everyone has a safe place to call home and the support to sustain a healthy life. You can help us bring that vision closer. During TPR's fall fundraising drive, when you become a new or upgraded sustaining TPR member, an anonymous funder will cover the cost of securing an ID for a person experiencing homelessness. That one step opens the way to housing, work, and vital services. Visit tpr.org to make your gift. Thanks.
Live from the John L. Santico studio in downtown San Antonio, this is The Source from Texas Public Radio. I'm David Martin Davies. In the second half hour, we're going to be joined by San Antonio Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones to take your calls. We're going to get the latest on what is happening with the rainbow crosswalks. But first, in 1 week, early voting begins for the November 4th election, and Texans will be deciding on 17 proposed amendments to the state constitution. The measures span a wide range of issues. There's property tax relief, judicial reform, funding for Alzheimer's research, education, and water. There's also a question of parental rights and stricter voting eligibility rules. That's Proposition 16. It would amend Article 6, Section 1 of the Texas Constitution to really just put it in bold type that persons who are not citizens of the United States cannot vote in our elections. We're joined by Charlie Colleen. He is the State Director for Americans for Citizen Voting. And Charlie, welcome to The Source.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So you are definitely in favor of getting people to vote for Proposition 16, correct?
Yes, I'm the State Director for American Citizens Voting. We have a very simple mission, one vote per one U.S. citizen, and we're very happy to see Prop 16 on the ballot.
Obviously, we have laws that prohibit non-citizens from voting already, a state law, federal law. Why do we need it in the state constitution?
Yeah, so non-citizens are allowed to vote in certain cities when there's home rule. So what a city can do, let's say San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Chicago, what they'll elect when it's a home rule state, like Texas is a home rule state, they'll say, okay, we're going to choose who can vote in our local elections. And in those cities, for example, non-citizens are allowed to vote. So this would just clarify that only U.S. citizens can vote in all of Texas's elections.
Any of these elections happening in Texas in modern times that allow non-citizens to vote?
So what we've seen, for example, in Dallas County. So Dallas County, I think it was in 2022, I believe, they had a proposal to allow non-citizens to serve on county boards. That was voted down, but then it came back 2 years later. And actually now non-citizens can serve on boards in Dallas County. In 2024, the governor put out a press release that they removed around 5,000 non-citizens from the voter rolls, and just under 2,000 of those had voting histories.
So Do we have this in Texas? I just want to try and get down to a yes or no answer. Are non-citizens allowed to vote in local elections?
Yeah. So what this amendment is, what Proposition 16 is, it's going to preempt any issues that may come that we've been seeing happen around the country with non-citizens voting.
Okay, so now there is historic evidence that in Texas and other frontier states back in the day during the Wild West when they were settling the state, it was accepted that non-citizens would be able to vote in local elections. Even in the Republic of Texas, it was included that free white persons shall be who immigrate to the Republic and who reside here for 6 months, who make an oath of intent on being here permanently, can vote in these local elections. Also, that was in the state constitution in the 1876 and in the so these were, it was considered that we had migrants who were here, people who settled into the state of Texas, that they could vote for things like sheriff and mayor and constable and things like that because it directly impacted them, even though they weren't yet citizens, but they had pledged that they were becoming citizens. They were working towards citizens. So we have a history of allowing this. Was that a problem back then, or things changed?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can compare the issues that people faced back then to the issues that people face today. And what this is really is an issue of is its citizenship and what comes with citizenship. When you're a U.S. citizen, you take a long-term view on your state, on your community, on your country. Everyone else is ultimately a guest, and only citizens should be the people who are choosing who our political leaders are, what policies are being voted in. Because ultimately, like, we're the ones who have to live with this decision in perpetuity. I mean, everyone else, they're a guest, they can leave. So I think it's a matter of responsibility in making sure the people who are going to be responsible long term are voting in our elections.
But you do recognize we did this historically in Texas.
Yeah, of course, and that's why we need to amend the Constitution to make sure that only U.S. citizens are voting in Texas.
Our phone lines are open, 833-877-8255, 833-TPR-TALK. If you have a question or a comment about Proposition 16 that's on the statewide ballot that would put in the state constitution that non-citizens will be prohibited from voting. So how big of a problem is non-citizen voting in Texas?
Well, I mean, I think this is more of a preemptive amendment. And that's to stop what we're seeing happen in places like San Francisco, Chicago, Washington, D.C.
We're not those places. I mean, come on, this is Texas, and we have a state law, and we have a very aggressive attorney general who wouldn't cotton to any of that.
I mean, I think a lot of people would disagree. When you look at a liberal city like Austin, I don't think it's beyond comprehension to think that a blue city could easily adopt something like this.
Right, and it would only be for local elections. There's no way you could vote in a statewide election or a federal election for president, for senator or congressman under the current situation. It would be, that's different.
Yeah, this is to make sure only U.S. citizens are voting in all elections, including local elections, which are some of the most important elections. I mean, you've said this, where it's like, these are the people who make a lot of decisions that impact your daily life: school board, county commissioner, county board, sheriff, constable. I mean, we need to make sure that only U.S. citizens are the ones voting in these elections, because ultimately they're the ones who are taking a long-term responsible view on everything. You wouldn't be like a guest in someone's house, for example, and say, okay, we're going to rearrange your furniture, we're going to change the artwork. I mean, this is making sure that truly the people who are U.S. citizens are voting in elections.
All right. Well, we're coming up on a break, and when I come back, I do want to ask you some questions about there are voting rights groups who are concerned that if Proposition 16 passes and we put this in the state constitution, that there would be downstream effects that would make it harder even for U.S. citizens to vote. It would put in restrictions or requirements to show your documentation, which many people may not be able to do. We're going to get into all of that and other questions about why this Proposition 16, why you say it's necessary, why this would make Texas elections more secure. And the phone line again is 833-877-8255. We'll get Joan on the air with her question when she comes back. This is The Source on Texas Public Radio. Stay with us. You're listening to The Source on Texas Public Radio. I'm David Martin Davies. In the second half hour, we'll be joined by Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones to take your calls. But right now, we're talking about Proposition 16. It is one of 17 proposed propositions, changes to the state constitution. This one would make it illegal. It would ban non-citizens from voting in the state of Texas, even in the very local races for mayor and things like that. It's already illegal to vote if you're non-citizen in Texas, but this would definitely draw a hard line on that. And so we're speaking with Charlie Colleen. He is the State Director of Americans for Citizens Voting. And let's go to Joan on the phones. And Joan, you're on the air. Hello, Joan?
Oh, hello.
Yeah, hi, Joan.
Yes.
You're on the air.
Hi, thank you very much. Yes, my question's pretty simple. What is the harm of a green card holder, somebody who's maybe been in the country or in the state for quite a period of time, maybe very invested in the success of the community, involved in various things that are to the benefit of the community? What is the problem with a green card holder, a permanent resident, lawful permanent resident, voting?
All right, Joan, thank you for that question. And let's go to Charlie Colleen for his response.
Well, thank you so much. That's a really good question. So, I mean, the Proposition 16 comes down to a question of citizenship and really the privileges that come with it. And we really believe that voting is such a sacred privilege reserved only for U.S. citizens. I mean, these are people who are in the country, they're here long term, and they're a citizen. I mean, everyone else ultimately, permanent resident, others, green card holder, ultimately they're a guest. So this amendment, this would make sure that only U.S. citizens are voting in this election, and they're the ones who are ultimately going to take a responsible long-term view on the governance of this state.
That green card holder definitely paying taxes, and they may own a business. Something, they're participating in the community. Is that a factor?
Correct, but I mean, if I go on vacation to France, I'm paying taxes in France, and I don't expect to have the right to vote over there either.
But like you said, you're on vacation. This is not a person on vacation. They're a
you're using this tax argument, thinking that you can buy your way into a vote. Which, I mean, this isn't a very controversial thing either. I mean, we did a recent poll, and 88% of Texans agree that only U.S. citizens should be able to vote in Texas's elections.
Sure, but one of the founding principles of the United States is, no taxation without representation. They do pay taxes, and they're not here on vacation just paying, sales tax on here and there. They are fully invested. Let's go to Valerie. And Valerie, you're on the air.
Hi, I just wanted to say that they may be green card holders, long-term residents, may be guests in your opinion, but this is their home, in their opinion. They are stakeholders. They likely have children who are citizens, and their vote for school districts and school board members and municipal office holding is important to their children's lives too. So they are responsible voters because they have to be responsible for what the future of their children. And I just think if it's not that controversial and not that big of a deal, why not invest some of your time in other important things?
All right, Valerie, thank you for your call. I want to ask you this question, Charlie. So there are voting rights groups that say if we put in these like a requirement, a law based on this change to the Constitution, now I have to produce documentation that I am a citizen, like my birth certificate, in order to register to vote, and then that would actually be a barrier to many, many people and prevent them from voting. Do you see that happening, or is that not a concern?
Well, I want to touch on one thing.
You bet.
So this was a bipartisan effort
Yeah.
to get it through the Texas legislature. So this involved, 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. So there were many Democrats that were in favor of this. American citizens voting, we're also a nationwide group. So we get a lot of these questions a lot saying, oh, this would create a barrier. This would disenfranchise people. In reality, I think you'd be very hard pressed in real life to find someone who has trouble registering to vote because of lack of documentation. I know from a campaign that I did in Michigan that was all on voting rights and access to the ballot box. Like to say that people aren't going to have access to, for example, to get a driver's license or a state ID, whether it's for financial reasons or others, like it's very like I would be very interested to find that actual person who had trouble with that, because we've looked for a very long time and we have yet to come up with a legitimate name.
I mean, if I had to produce my birth certificate, I don't think I could. I have no idea where it is. It's long gone. I mean, I have to spend time and energy, I guess, reproducing that.
Well, there's other documentation too, I'm sure, like that you could use to prove that you're a U.S. citizen, passport, and other things.
Yeah, but you need, okay. So it's a bipartisan, sure, we get it. We're just asking questions and trying to raise awareness that this is on the ballot and you want people to vote on it, fully aware of what it means, right?
Correct, yeah. And
okay, so
that's
what we're doing. So let's go to Juan on the phones. And Juan, you're on the air.
Thank you. Charlie, thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask questions and comment on your show. First, Charlie, sir, I wanted to ask you if you've ever served in the military. And if you have, I thank you for your service. And I wanted to ask, what would be your opinion or comment to a non-citizen who has enlisted and is currently serving in the military, specific, for example, here in San Antonio, Texas, and whether or not they should be allowed to vote? Thank you.
All right, Juan. Military service, Charlie Colleen?
Yeah, I have not served in the military.
Okay, and so and to the point he's making, that there are plenty of people who do serve in the military who are non-citizens and they serve honorably, and they should be, what should happen to their ability to, vote?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we thank everyone for their service. But I mean, this question of voting, though, it's fairly non-controversial that 88% of Texans agree with that only U.S. citizens should be voting in our elections. And we take a very common sense view on that, where it's like if you're a U.S. citizen, you have a right and privilege to vote in our elections, and if you're not, ultimately, you're a guest, and those decisions should be left for only U.S. citizens.
So you don't see the passage of Proposition 16 that it would lead to more barriers for voting for people who are legal citizens?
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of the concerns that are brought up are they're manufactured. I mean, these are concerns that people are saying, "Oh, what if this? What if that?" And
well, that's what you're doing. You're saying, what if we, change things in Texas and, which aren't currently it's illegal anyway. So you're doing it.
Well, no, I think what you're trying to say is hey, let's find this person who has trouble producing documentation to say they're a U.S. citizen and having trouble voting. And I think that's very hard. I think that's a scenario that really doesn't materialize that much in real life.
Well, that much. So does it bother you that it could happen, that there are people, according to groups like the League of Women Voters of Texas, other voting rights groups, they say that they're not in favor of the passage of Prop 16. They're wary of this. This could have a huge burden on voters.
Well, I think those concerns are ill-founded. I mean, I think to be a U.S. citizen and vote in our elections, number one, it's bipartisan.
Well, that's not the point.
It's non-controversial, and I think you can kind of look at those two things though as example with what people are bringing up is concerns that just aren't completely legitimate. I'm saying this as someone who's been involved in the election integrity space for a long time.
Okay.
I just think it's very hard to find the person who says, I tried registering to vote, but they wouldn't let me.
All right. Well, Charlie Colleen, thank you so much. He is in favor of passing Proposition 16. We're taking a break now. This is The Source on Texas Public Radio. We'll be back after this break.
Hi, I'm Ellen Mathewson, and I live in Stanwood, Washington. When I was in high school in the mid-'60s, girls were not encouraged to do science. When I took the standardized tests, I did really well in mechanical reasoning, spatial ability, and my teacher said, "Oh, more like a boy than a girl." Like somehow it wasn't feminine to be good at those things. NPR has just opened up a world of learning about science for me. I love listening to shortwave. It gives me a short peek into what is current on the scientific horizon. Thanks to the NPR network, everyone can be a lifelong learner. Support the station that feeds your curiosity by making a gift today.
I'm David Martin Davies, and this is the Texas Public Radio Fall Fundraising Drive. And you can call in with your support at 800-622-8977. With me in the studio is Dan Katz, our Vice President of News and Information and all around good things. And Dan, how are things going?
Thanks. They're going great. We have some momentum right now. We're in a challenge. We're looking to raise $10,000 by 3 p.m. to support the programming that you rely on. And if we hit that challenge, by all things considered, we'll unlock an additional $5,000 in vital support. Your gift today helps keep the programs you rely on, news, meaningful conversations, dialogue on the air for everyone. Give now, tpr.org, or you can call 800-622-8977.
So the government shutdown, it's still going on. It's not the city or the county government, or the state government, but it is the federal government, and it is really tough on a lot of people, especially if you're a federal government worker. It feels like chaos. We have these headlines going around. We have finger pointing everywhere. But what's really going on here? It's about understanding how this affects you or your neighbors and your community. And that's what Texas Public Radio is doing now. We're trying to break through the noise to provide clarity and the necessary context about this big story and what it means to you and a lot of the local federal agencies. We report on what's happening and why it matters. But we can only do this with your help. Our fall fundraising drive is underway with the goal of raising $1 million. This is the largest we've ever done at TPR history. So you can be part of maintaining this trusted independence journalism facility alive, keep it going in our community. When others are making noise, TPR is cutting through the noise. TPR is making sense about what is happening in your world. You can give now at tpr.org. You can go through the TPR app or give us a call at 800-622-8977.
$7,850 now left to raise by all things considered in order to unlock that challenge funding. We want to say thank you to a new sustaining member in San Antonio who says, "I'm a musician and public radio taught me so much before I went to college. I was an Air Force bandsman and have taught flute for about 50 years. We also rely on NPR for honest news coverage." Wow, thank you. You know, you just heard Fresh Air, one of public radio's most thoughtful shows. And now, during the noon hour, we turn from the national stage to our own community with The Source, TPR's live daily call-in program, where you can be part of the conversation. And today, we were talking about Texas Proposition 16, the statewide voting for citizens-only measure. And now we've got Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones on next. And that's what your support makes possible, the chance to go from listening to Fresh Air to adding your voice here at home. And if you believe that full circle, hearing the world and then engaging right here in San Antonio and South Central Texas is something you want to protect, then take a moment to give now. It is under threat. Go to tpr.org and call 800-622-8977.
Right, and you just heard the conversation with the proponent for Proposition 16, talking about why it's important that they pass this change to the state constitution banning non-citizen voting. And yeah, I was asking some tough questions, and he was saying things that I thought needed to be pushed back on, and that's what I did, and I think that's what the listeners expect from us. So the only way I can do that is if I have your support by calling Texas Public Radio 800-622-8977. We have a venue where we're able to try to keep these folks honest, hold them accountable, call for transparency, all the things that Gene Ortiz-Jones is trying to do with the San Antonio Spurs. We're going to be talking about that when we come back from this break. Stay with us.